Welcome back. In this video, we are going to add a marker to the location where we actually have our happy place. So we will add a marker on this map, and you can see here, view on map is the button that we need to click in order to get to the screen. And the beauty is we already give the information about the happy place in the intent. So we put extra information to the intent in the last video, and now we can take that data or retrieve the data and then use it. So let's just do that. Let's go over to our map activity, and here I need a new variable which will store that new happy place model object that was given to us. So let's create this. Happy place detail is going to be a happy place model nullable. So I'm just going to assign null to it because we will assign something to it once we retrieve the data. And where do we get the data from? Well, we get it from this other activity, right? So from this happy place detail activity, as you can see here, once we click on this button, we have this put extra, which is actually a happy place detail model. And that is our object here. So it's a happy place model object. So the same type, right? Just a different name. But then what we need to do is, of course, to get that info from the intent. So we can just go ahead and say, does the intent have extra information about something called main activity dot extra? And here it didn't take the whole activity, so has extra for extra place details. Okay, so does it have something like that? If it does, then let's use it. So let's assign it to our nullable that we created up here. So happy place details. So we can just go ahead and maybe call it details, so plural, and then we can go ahead and say intent get serializable extra data. And serializable, well, in our case actually it is get parcelable extra data. So this really depends on how you set it up in your model class. So in our model happy place model here, I used parcelable, but if you used in the serializable way, then you would of course use get serializable extra, but I'm using get parcelable extra. And what type of extra is it? Well, it's main activity dot extra place details type of stuff. And now we need to cast it into a happy place model. Okay, so we convert it here. Let's have a look at this again here in a slightly better way, so now we can read it more better, I'd say. So we check, do we have extra information in the intent that was sending us, or that sent us over here to this activity? If that's the case, and it actually has this particular name, which is this name here, extra place details, then assign that parseable extra information as a happy place model into that happy place details variable that we created up there. And now we can check, is it empty? So did we get some information or not? So happy place details not equal null. If that's the case, then I want to set support action bar, which is our toolbar underscore map, and then support action bar set display home as up and able to true. So then I'll have a back button, and here, by the way, toolbar needs to be imported. All right. And then the next thing is that I also want to assign the title. So you might have recognized or realized that there is nothing here, so no text here. And that's because we didn't set it up in our map activity. So let's do that right here. We assign the title to be happy place details, which is a nullable, so we need to use double exclamation mark here, and it's the title. All right, so here we assign the title, and then we need to give the back button a functionality. So we can just go ahead and say toolbar map dot set navigation on click listener, and what should it do? Well, basically just use on back pressed. So same functionality. Okay, this is nothing new so far, right? Except for maybe this part, but even that we've done already. So now comes the new stuff, and that is to use a support map fragment. So let's create a support map fragment object, which will be of type support map fragment. And now I'm going to assign here support fragment manager dot find fragment by ID. And now you might recall when we used a fragment that was in our activity map. So here our map here was a fragment. So I'm trying to retrieve this fragment here. So let's do that. Let's get it by ID, r.id.map. That's the name of it, right? And I need to cast that into a support map fragment because so far it's just a fragment, right? But to be more precise, it's actually a support map fragment. That's what we have this class for. So that's why I assigned class here before. All right, and then we can go ahead and support map fragment dot get map asynchronously. So it should run in the background. And which map should it be? Well, I say it's this. Why does it complain? Well, because my class, my map activity, does not yet comply with the onMap ready callback. So let's add onMap ready callback. So we're extending this onMap ready callback interface, which is just a public interface, you see, and it has this one function which is called onMap ready, and we need to follow that. So let's implement those members. Let's add this onMap ready, and let's go all the way down here. You can see now we can define whatever should happen once the map is ready, and it's going to be a Google map. And as I said earlier, what we want to display here is actually the marker. So if you want to display a marker, what you need to know is the location. All right, and the location of the position that we want to use is going to be the following. So position will be a lat long object. So it needs to be of this type, latitude, longitude. And where do we get the latitude from? And where the longitude from? Well, we get it from our mHappyPlaceDetails, which has our, which comes from this extra, right? So we get it sent, get this whole object sent, this HappyPlace model object, which by the way has latitude and longitude here, and then we use it. So we can just say mHappyPlaceDetails dot latitude and then mHappyPlaceDetails dot longitude. Now at this point I'm really forcing it with double exclamation marks, so it could happen that our mHappyPlaceDetails is empty. So you could make it even safer here with additional conditions and everything, but I'm quite optimistic that the information will be sent because we created the code this way, right? So we sent over a HappyPlace model object and that would work, right? So the next thing is that I want to assign a marker on the Google map. So it says on map ready. What should happen with this Google map that I'm giving you? Well, it passes me this Google map and I will use it. So I'm just gonna say Google map dot add marker. So at this point I'm just adding a marker, and here it's actually called P0. So I don't like this name. P0 is not very descriptive. So I'm just going to use Google map add marker, and here I'm going to force it. And then this add marker needs to have details. So what kind of details does it need? Well, it needs marker options. All right, so let's give it some marker options. Let's say marker options, and let's just look what marker options there are. So alpha, snippet, rotation, a bunch of different options, but I just want to give it a position for now. And what position? Well, you see it needs a lat long object. Guess what? We have this position which is of type lat long. Okay, so we can just pass in our position that we created. And then we can give it a title. And which title should be displayed there? Well, of course we could use the title of the location, or better said, the title of the happy place. But at the same time, I think having the name of it would be better. So I'm just going to say use the title, or assign a title, and it should be a string here. So I'm going to use happy place details location. So now I'm taking the location from our happy place model, which is of type string nullable, as you can see here, and it's the actual location name and not so much the title of the location. So you could use either way, whatever you prefer. If you want to display the title of the location, of course you can do that, but on the other hand, the title is already up here, so it will be in the action bar. So I don't think it is really necessary at that point. All right, and then it would be nice to not just have this marker on the screen, because if we test that, we should already see the marker on the screen. But I would like to have the map zoomed in to that marker so that it makes sense, because otherwise a marker on the world, well, it could be something that you maybe want. So it really depends on what you prefer in terms of the settings. But now let's just see. Let's create a new location, because I think so far we didn't create good locations. So I'm gonna call this one Mount Everest and highest mountain on Earth, and then let's assign the location Mount Everest, and I'm just gonna use this one here. I hope it's the right one. Let's add an image. I'm going to select one from the gallery, and I have one prepared here already. So I downloaded this image, and now let's save it. And now let's check Mount Everest out. So view on map. And there you are. So it shows me, okay, this is where it is. But at the same time, well, of course I can try to zoom in. By the way, I'm pressing the control key in order to zoom in, or keeping it held or pushed, and then you can swipe around and drag around and everything. It's a little difficult to use properly. So it should be somewhere north of India. But yeah, you see, this is not an behavior that you would like to have for your application. So it would really make sense to automatically zoom into the spot, because right now we can see where it is when we look at the Earth. Okay. So up here, just at Nepal, and instead we can of course zoom in. So how do we zoom in? Well, let's do that. New let along zoom. So I'm going to call it, which will be a camera update factory new let along zoom. Okay. And here you need to pass in two information. So let's look at it. The let long value, and then another float, which is the zoom value. And I think there are something like 15 zoom values or something like that. So multiple different zoom levels, and you can play around with that. You could even add a functionality for the user if you want to. But I'm just gonna assign the position as a let long value, and then I'm gonna zoom in with the 15f value. So it expects a float value, so I'm gonna give it a float value of 15. And then there's one last thing to do, and that is to animate our Google Map to go to this location. So this is a pretty cool feature. It looks great. So let's use it. Google Map, animate, camera. And here I'm going to use this function here, and I'm going to pass in a new let long zoom. All right, so let's see what this returns. You can see it returns a camera update. And that's exactly what animate camera expects. So you can see it expects a camera update object. So that works perfectly together. So that's why we can use it this way. And now this will be called, by the way, this on map ready once the map is ready, of course. All right. So as soon as our map is completely loaded, then this code here will be executed. And at that point, we will then zoom in to this location, which I have selected there, which is the Mount Everest. So let's now test this again. Let's go over to our Mount Everest. Let's view this on the map. And let's see how it zooms in. So map is ready, and you can see it zooms in all the way. All right. So now you can of course zoom out, and you can see this is the Mount Everest, and it's just at the border of Nepal and China. All right. So there we are. That is a pretty cool feature. 15 maybe is too much. Maybe you just want to use something like, I don't know, 10. Let's just see the difference. So this is the value that you can play around with, just to see how deep it will zoom in, or how far it will zoom in. So let's select Mount Everest, view this on the map, and you can see it zoomed in not as far as before. 15 was of course a super far zoomed in screen here, but I think 10 is a little better for these kind of locations, but it really depends on the location. And if someone only has values or only has happy places which are very close by, then a better zoom would make more sense probably. All right, so that is it. Now you can see how you can use this functionality. Of course, we are still not using any location specific data, so we're not using the location of the user, and that's also something that we will implement later on. All right, so see you in the next video.